Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Life Renovations. I'm Carrie Collins. This is week 10. Give yourself props, you made it this far. Week 10. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am, because I am loving it. Over the course of the week, you learn to see yourself and talk to yourself in a new and productive way. While really affirming yourself can feel ridiculous at first, in the process you learn to really analyze how your weaknesses are really your strengths. So this week we'll learn how to use your affirmations to improve your health and well-being, practice a very specific visualization technique, and talk about one of my all-time favorite superfoods. So one of the best aspects to the law of abundance is that it's lavish, it's wasteful, and it's even extravagant. Anyone who's grown up in the Midwest and grown tomato plants understands this better than anyone else. We end up with more tomatoes than we can actively eat. We make sauces, we can them, but we still end up giving like bags and bags to our neighbors. Same thing during apple picking in the fall. We have to step over apples that have fallen and are rotting on the ground. During the blueberry harvest, there's baskets and baskets of blueberries, and the birds still have plenty to eat for themselves. So why is it that if the law of abundance works so well in nature, we don't feel overwhelmed with abundance? And it's basically because we don't understand the law. Knowledge of the way the world works gives us power. Knowing that turning on a switch will create electricity gives us the ability to function in the dark. Knowing that chemicals in a match will spark and light when hit against sandpaper gives us the ability to create heat. Knowing the properties of air pressure allows heavy airplanes full of hundreds of people to fly across the world. All this happens now without fear, but that wasn't always the case. Fire, electricity, and gravity are all forces of power that, unless you understand their laws, can cause death and destruction. On the other hand, my nighttime flights incorporate all three: electricity, heat, and an airplane that stays in the air. Without the mastery of those three laws, global travel would be impossible. But because these laws exist, and because I trust that they're abundant, I can be in Los Angeles and Chicago on the same day. It's allowed me to accomplish a huge goal of mine, which was to build a Kihara stretching team on the West Coast. Understanding the laws of nature and using them to your benefit gives you the power to accomplish the things that you desire. The laws that I've just spoken of are physical laws. Even though you can't see them, you trust that they'll work because the results are instant and obvious. A light either turns on or it doesn't. You get home and flip the switch, and if the light doesn't go on, you don't automatically think that Edison was a fraud. Instead, you know that somewhere a circuit's broken. You either need to replace the light bulb or check the fuse box or even call the electrician. It's important to understand that these laws are static, they don't change, and they can be trusted. Spiritual laws are similar to physical laws in that they're static, they don't change, and they can be trusted. These laws govern things that we can't measure or see, but we know that they exist because we feel them. Some examples are happiness, love, friendship, hate, generosity, and sympathy. These things are products of our subjective mind. You can't measure love, but you know the more you give, the more you get. You can feel love for yourself, your family, your pets, your significant other, for a celebrity, or even for food or sunshine. I love sunshine. Each type of love has a different quality. But you know when you feel like you love something, it affects you physically. It can make you feel energized, light-footed, and happy. You also know that the more you focus on love, the more love comes to you. As we know from a popular sayings, when it rains, it pours. Or my own personal favorite, hallelujah, it's raining men. Now this can be good or bad, depending on the quality of your rain. So why is this? How does it work? Well, in the physical world, things are either organic, which means they're alive, or they're inorganic, which is not alive. These two things are not interchangeable. My childhood toys could not sing and dance. The inorganic cannot become organic. But on the other hand, Jim Henson, a puppeteer and the creator of the Muppets, was able to bring fur and cloth into a lifelike existence. So much that even interviewers have no problem looking into Kermit the Frog's eyes and relating to him like he's a live being. The difference between a stuffed animal living its own life and Kermit the Frog being a guest on the Today Show is that Kermit's inorganic body is in contact with organic life. That point of contact is where Kermit takes on some of the properties of an organic being. Jim Henson has given him the gift of vitality. The same is true with all living beings in the universe. The plant that you visualized last week was lifeless. It was just a lifeless seed until it was touched by something organic and began the process of growth. When you visualized your decay and transformation into carbon, you gave life to another seed. The inorganic becomes organic when it's in contact with organic life. The same type of connection exists between the spiritual world and the natural world. We exist as humans in the natural world. Without assistance, we can't enter the spiritual world and make spiritual laws work for us. So just like the puppeteer creates his puppet and gives him a life and a voice, the universal mind or the collective mind connects with the human mind and enlightens it. People meditate for years, spending time in silence, all to receive enlightenment. This moment is spoken of like it's a one-time experience. I argue that enlightenment comes a lot easier than that and can happen multiple times in one day. We've all experienced it. It's like a sudden burst of insight, that light bulb moment. It's really like a burst of gamma rays. As you do the exercises I've given you, you'll come to recognize these moments of insight as a temporary connection to the spiritual world. And again, I don't connect the word spiritual with religion. It's up to you to decide if that's your belief system. And it definitely fits with this idea, but it shouldn't be limited to just that. When I talk about the spiritual world, I'm talking about the collective I, the part of you that's not your body, connecting energetically with the same parts of the collective whole. Every single person on earth has a spirit, and we're connecting these spirits on a regular basis. When you're aware of this connection to the collective whole or the universal mind, you're having a spiritual experience. It's through this web of connectivity that we receive insight and abundance. So just like Jim Henson reaching into a piece of cloth and giving it lifelike energy, the universal mind reaches into the human mind and it gives it insight. You can connect to this infinite wisdom through your thoughts, and then you have the ability to turn that thought into physical form. This brings me to the law of thought. The law of thought is that thought is an active, vital form of dynamic energy, which has the power to correlate with its object and bring it out of the invisible substance from which all things are created into the visible and objective world. Let me break that down. The law of thought says that your thoughts are alive. They're like this moving energy. You can connect your thoughts to your desires. When your desires are in your thoughts, they're invisible in the physical world. You have the ability to bring those thoughts out of the invisible world and make them real. Through the law of thought, you'll learn that you can create your own conditions in the world. We don't do anything to assist in the manifestation of our thoughts. We just live within the laws of the universe. And that's the beautiful thing. We don't really need to take action. We create the ideal situation based on our thoughts, and the universe sets the process in motion according to your ideals. The problem with the law of thought comes when you don't understand how it works. So similar to the laws of electricity, electricity does marvelous things when we know how to control it in a safe manner. By understanding electricity's power, you know not to blow dry your hair in the bathtub or stick a fork in the light socket. If you don't understand how it works, it can be a disaster, it can be fatal. The law of thought's similar. When you understand that your thoughts complete the circuit for what comes into your life, then you'll know to think what you want and not what you don't. Someone who thinks about poverty, disaster, sickness, and heartache are putting those things into motion without an understanding of the laws. No different than not knowing about metal and electricity and putting a fork into an electrical outlet. When you understand the laws of the invisible world, you can avoid a lot of suffering caused by your thoughts alone. Your thoughts create your suffering or your happiness. That's often really difficult to accept, especially since you can't clearly see the cause and effect. But if you start observing, you'll see that this is the case. You'll see the proof through the law of growth. The law of growth is that everything that is alive is constantly attracting to itself exactly what it needs in order to completely express itself. If your thoughts are in harmony with the creative principle of nature, then the circuit is complete, and thought will attract exactly what it needs to completely express itself. If a thought's not in harmony with nature, the circuit will be made or won't be made, and the thought won't manifest. Since no circuit is formed, the thought's not allowed to complete. Instead, that incomplete and inharmonious thought stays with you. It teases you, it worries you, and it keeps you up at night. These thoughts cause stress, which leads to sickness, disease, and even death. When you change your thoughts to positive thinking, you keep the negativity from bottling up inside of you. I believe that stress is the root cause of all sickness. If you think about the last time you got really sick, you can probably backtrack a bit and find out that it was surrounded by a stressful event in your life. Case in point, a few weeks ago I took a red-eye flight back from Los Angeles on a Tuesday morning, resulting in a lack of sleep. I came home to a house in complete disarray. Not surprising because I run a business and I travel a lot. I went to choir practice that night and was exposed to a woman who had caught a summer cold. By the next day, I could feel my body fighting it. I went through my normal routines of rest, affirmations, and self-care to make sure I kicked that cold out of my body. But I got a call that afternoon from my sister, pregnant with twins, that the doctors were worried and were going to induce her early. I've never felt stress like the stress I felt when my little sister was in labor for a high-risk pregnancy. You should have seen me trying to get out of my house. It was like a scene out of a sitcom. I lost my phone, and then when I was looking for my phone, I lost my keys, and while I was looking for my keys, I lost my phone, and it just kept compounding. I finally got there. I was a nervous wreck. Everything went well, and I have 2 beautiful nephews, and my sister is doing amazing, but it was the most stressful couple days of my entire life. My cold hit full force, and by Monday, I'd completely lost my voice. When we're under stress, our bodies turn on the fight or flight response. My fight response was dead on. I was ready and willing to do anything to make sure that my sister and her babies survived this entire ordeal. Unfortunately, when that response goes off in us, our immune system doesn't get the energy that it needs to fight off a cold. So who cares if your nose is running? There are more important things happening. Usually I would take my time to calm down, say my affirmations, and take care of myself. But to be honest, I loved it. I was full of adrenaline and excitement. I knew my sister was in really good hands, but it was one of those situations where I felt like being totally stressed out was somehow fitting. It made me feel important, and even worse, I felt like being a complete nutcase was somehow proving to my sister that I was there for her. I put my sister's needs before mine, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. But that was a single event of stress, and the effects were obvious. I got really sick. But once the dust settled, my immune system kicked back on, and instead of getting sicker, I started to get better. I can see this response in people all the time. People who think that being stressed out is virtue. You know the type, they walk through their office and papers are flying all around them and they're on their phone trying to settle something and pacing back and forth, and they've got all this nervous energy. Negative energy is just that, it's energy. It has motion, and when that motion is stuck in your body, your immune system will fail you. Whether it manifests in a common cold or a major disease that takes time to build up, it's inevitable. And here's the solution. You have to turn your negativity into a positive statement, a constructive and creative one. The destructive thoughts are eliminated, just like last week, the ice melting in the cup. When you do this, the circuit connects your thought to the outside world, and that energy just moves right out of you. You've experienced it before, like when you finish something really stressful and you push the send button and then you just go, oh, right? That heavy sigh, that's just letting out all of that balled up energy. What's even greater though is that when you make a circuit, when you connect that circuit, it brings life to your positive thought in a spiritual way, just like bringing Kermit the Frog to life. Your positive energy is able to connect to the universal mind. Negative energy, it'll just stay inside of you. You want to let it out. This brings us back to our next stage in your development. It's bringing your life's purpose into fruition. Over the last few weeks, we've talked a lot about turning your thoughts around and figuring out how to set a goal into action. Through this, you've paid attention to how your goals are creative and constructive, and how that brings certain people and circumstances into your life to bring your life's purpose to your awareness. So maybe you've had some great insight that makes it clear why you're here and how you can make the world better. Maybe you haven't. But regardless, because you're on this path, you're moving in the right direction. So the next step is to complete the circuit. You do that through having the intention to find this purpose and having the will to carry it out. When you combine those two things, your life's purpose will materialize by the natural law of transference. You've completed the circuit to connect the universal will to your individual will. As long as your purpose is creative and constructive, you'll not only make a difference in the world, but your physical health will also benefit. So what we're going to do this week, you're going to complete the circuit through your guided journaling. I'm just going to pull this up so you can see it. This is actually, for those of you who can't see this on the recording, it's in your guided journal. So it's actually page 2, I think. What you're going to do is have a look at your goal from week 4. You're going to rewrite it and put it into, let me just get my tools out. There we go. Ta-da. You're going to take a look at your goal from week 4, and I want you to rewrite it in a simple statement, like a sentence, right here where it says my goal. Then I want you to make a list of all the things, people, and resources that you had personally to help you complete that goal when this course started. And that's here where it says resources within. You can just list them right on there. The next thing, I want you to take a second and think about all of the things that have happened, people, resources, ideas, synchronistic moments, anything that came up that's outside of you. Resources without, and I want you to list those on this side. All right, and then to complete the circuit, there's a phrase that I want you to say, and you say, I am willing to connect the resources within my control and the resources without my control to complete my goal of, and then you list your goal down here. Okay, so it's a pretty simple exercise, but can be a little bit tricky. So I just want to walk you through it really quick, an example with me. I have a goal, one of my life goals, a big bucket list goal, is to have a mailbox in Italy someday. I want to live in Italy. And so I would write here in my goal to have a mailbox in Italy. And then I would look here at what are my resources within? Like, what are the things that I have? What are the things that I know? And that would be stuff like I studied Italian in school. I've been to Italy a handful of times. I studied opera. I love Italian food. I really want to go to Italy. These are like the resources within. It could even be something as simple as like my job allows me to travel, that my career could be done from anywhere if I do it the right way. And so these are the things that I can put in resources within. And then when I look at resources without, I have to think about the things that are coincidental, the things that, the people or the events that might bring me closer to that goal. Like one example is I work upstairs from an Italian restaurant where they specialize in the cuisine from Puglia, which is a region in the heel of the boot of Italy. And then I had one of my clients send me an email of a woman who does retreats there, and like yoga retreats, and put me in touch with the people who have a retreat center there. So I have the ability to spend time in Puglia. I mean, it's in the same place. So that's kind of one of those coincidental things where it's like, really? I know multiple people from Puglia of all places. Another resource would be, I met somebody just yesterday whose family lives in a region, like his extended family lives in a region that's very close to Puglia. So I have another connection there as well. These kind of things are the things that are like, really? That's very coincidental. But I'm going to put those together. And then I can make the decision to connect my resources. So putting the energy out there, connecting the circuit, and now all of my resources without are able to help me with my resources within to connect and make this goal a reality. Now, I'm not in any hurry to move to Italy, but one day I want to. So I'm going to build up all my resources, and I'm going to continue connecting that circuit to make sure that at some point this happens, right? So sometimes we allow our goals to sit inside of us. That causes us stress. We don't want that. So what happens when you're actually willing to reconnect your individual resources with the multitude of resources available outside of you? You don't just double your resources, they become infinite. And this is a choice that you make. Do you do it all on your own, or are you open to accepting the assistance from others? It's as simple as flipping a switch. You just connect the circuit. And when you do that, you put the law of abundance into motion. So we're moving on into your meditation. Your meditation this week is more about a technique. And it can take you 2 minutes or it can take you a half an hour. It depends on really how far you want to take it or how much you enjoy it. But this week I want you to continue to fine-tune this visualization technique. In your designated meditation location, close your eyes, relax like before, and start to visualize a plain white wall. And then imagine yourself with a huge paintbrush and a big can of black paint. On that wall, I want you to paint 2 black parallel lines, like straight across, 2 black lines. When you can hold those 2 lines in your head, I want you to connect 2 more lines across to create a square. I want you to hold that image in your mind for as long as you possibly can. And if it disappears, just keep drawing it again and again and trying to hold that square in your mind's eye. It may take a while, it might be easy for you. When you can hold the square really solid, draw a circle inside the square. When you can hold both the circle and the square in your mind, put a dot in the middle of the circle, and then grab the dot and pull it towards you to create a cone. When you can change the size of the cone with your mind's eye back and forth, then imagine that you can change the color of the cone just by touching it. So try to make it red, and then you make it yellow, and then you make it blue, and you make it green. And when you can do this, then grab the edges of your square and expand it, make it smaller, and then expand the square in the circle too. The point of this exercise is to train your mind's eye to hold on to an image for a period of time. So this can be a really quick meditation, it can be a slow meditation. One day you may do just 2 lines, another day you might be able to do a square and a circle, and then building up until you can eventually change the dimensions of your shape and then also the colors. All right? Your body challenge this week is actually really easy. I want you to spend time committing the stretches from week 8 and week 9 into memory and walking for 20 minutes of a day just for enjoyment. This is no different than what you've been doing before. The stretches should start to feel really good. If you're consistently feeling pain or you don't enjoy certain stretches, contact me about doing a session, a Kihara session. A Kihara trainer in your area can problem solve your issues and speed up the process of clearing out your tension. Remember when you're stretching though, to keep your thoughts positive and take a second when that negative thought comes up and say an affirmation and let that energy flow out of you and release. Just complete the circuit, let it move right out of you. And now for your diet challenge. I've given you some difficult diet challenges. This one is actually really easy and kind of fun. I want to introduce you to one of nature's superfoods, sea vegetables, otherwise known as seaweed. Chances are, if you've spent much time in a Japanese restaurant, you've eaten seaweed either in a salad or wrapped around your sushi. But have you ever taken the time to really think about why seaweed is such a staple part of the Japanese cuisine? It's because it's so nutritious. I grew up in Ohio, pretty landlocked except for Lake Erie and the Ohio River. In either one, if I came across a sea plant, I wouldn't eat it. It would terrify me. Sea vegetables from the ocean are about as odd to an Ohioan as eating bugs. And there are cultures out there that eat bugs and they get lots of nutrients from them. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to eat bugs, ever, I promise. But I am going to ask you to step out of your comfort zone and try seaweed. The benefits of sea vegetables are abundant. Recently, scientists have found that seaweed contains the highest concentration of minerals of any plant that humans can consume, so much that it's 60 times more potent than land vegetables. Cultures that eat seaweed as part of their regular diet have fewer instances of obesity, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and other degenerative diseases. Some sea vegetables even help you to break down fat and will speed up weight loss. Be aware that seaweed does have a lot of sodium in it, so you have to moderate. You don't want to eat a ton of it every day. This week I'm going to introduce you to a few different ways to prepare seaweed and introduce them into your diets. My theory on introducing new food is that you have to try it at least twice to see how your body responds. Your first experience with seaweed might not be wonderful. It kind of smells and tastes like pond scum or like a fish tank. It's kind of gross the first time. But give it a day or two, let your body register the nutritional benefits, and the next time you try it, your body will be like, oh yeah, this stuff's good. And then by the third time, you might even start craving it. It's good stuff, but the first time you eat it, it's gonna be a little foreign and strange. But first things first, you have to find it. If you have a supermarket with an Asian section in it, you won't have to search very far. Most supermarkets sell dried seaweed in packets labeled by their names. Wakame, nori, kombu, and dulse, those are some of my favorites. If your local supermarket doesn't carry it, you might have to make a special trip to an Asian market. Most cities have them and they're so fun to explore, so make a day trip out of it. Your last option, if you still can't find it anywhere, is to order it off the internet. It's not perishable, it doesn't go bad, and you can have it shipped right to your house. Amazon has the same seaweed, the same exact stuff that you would find at Whole Foods. My first favorite is nori. Nori comes in thin green paper-like sheets. This is nori seaweed. See? You can't even see it when it's sideways. It's just like paper. When you combine it with water, it becomes sticky. It starts to break down. So that's why they use it to wrap sushi, because it like creates a binding agent. Also, one of the things that I like to make is a rice ball. So I'll take rice and actually wrap the rice ball up in a sheet of nori, and the nori, when it gets wet, becomes this binding agent, and it's like having a little ball of greatness. You can actually even use nori as a band-aid if you cut yourself. I don't know if I would probably just use a band-aid, but it has that binding ability. It's a huge source of plant-based protein and fiber, and has about 2/3 of your daily intake for iodine and B12 vitamins. My favorite way to prepare nori is to toast it and eat it plain. Here's how you do it. You take 1 sheet of nori from the package, just like this, turn on the gas burner on your stove, and hold it just on the edge like this, and just wave it over the fire, a couple inches over the flame. Make sure that you're not getting too hot with your fingers. It only takes a second. You know the nori is toasted. It changes from like a dark green to a light green color. You can just break it up into strips, just like this, and eat it. You can buy it also in single serve packets. Like I have these packets that I buy in like, I think they come in like packets of 50 or like 100. And there's about 4 pieces of nori in here. And you just take them out and snack on them. I find that this one little packet can curb my hunger and give me energy better than any other snack. And it only has 20 calories and 0 fat. So like in between a session, or if I'm teaching or something, I need something really quick, it's a very easy snack that I can just keep in my purse. And it doesn't have the same kind of effects as like having trail mix or nuts or a cookie. I mean, I love cookies, but it's very easy, and it only has 20 calories, no fat. The second best is called dulse. Dulse is a deep red or purple sea vegetable. It's commonly sold as flakes because it's a really good substitute for salt. Dulse is a great source of vitamins A, B, C, and E, plus calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, zinc, and iodine. It's great for your endocrine system and for cleaning and healing your liver. So you can easily incorporate dulse into your daily diet by sprinkling it on your salads. You can use it to season soups and side dishes. And I put it on popcorn instead of salt. And for one more great option, this one's a little more adventurous, wakame. Wakame is a little bit thicker. It's got more substance than the other two, and just as many nutritional benefits. My favorite way of preparing wakame is in an easy seaweed salad. You can find pre-cut strips of wakame, like these are wakame flakes. See if I can show you what they look like. It's kind of a dried seaweed, for lack of a better word. And you can just take these strips like this, or you can buy them in thicker strips. You just have to rehydrate it. So what I like to do is make a salad. I can make a really easy salad. I can take the dressing with me and rehydrate the wakame flakes anywhere that I can get hot water or warm water. So basically what you do, and this is a really easy lunch, is you take 3 to 4 strips of dried wakame, or you could use wakame flakes, which is even easier, and a couple teaspoons of them. You don't need a lot. And then you make a dressing out of vinegar, rice vinegar, tamari, sesame oil, a little bit of sugar, some ginger and garlic, and then maybe some toasted sesame seeds. And all you do is you soak the wakame in hot water for about 10 minutes for it to rehydrate, and then you mix it all together with the dressing, and then you can top it with the sesame seeds. It's a really great, quick lunch, lots of nutrients, very filling, and super good for you. So incorporating seaweed into your diet is it's like taking a multivitamin. It tastes good, it fills you up. If you find that you enjoy the way your body feels after eating seaweed the second time, give it at least 2 times, then I suggest you start incorporating it into your regular diet. Your body will thank you, I promise. I hope. So that's it for week 10. It's a quick one this week. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. It's time to start connecting your goals to the outside world. So make the decision to be willing to accept help from others and watch people in situations that just seem to find you. And then you could take those people out for sushi, right? Remember also that anyone who's caught up by the end of week 12 will receive transcripts from the classes and acknowledgement in my book. You just prove it to me by writing a testimonial about your experience. I'm really looking forward to reading about how you've changed and what's going on. So that wraps up week 10. I hope you guys are all enjoying it. Good luck with your journaling this week. It should be relatively easy, some time to catch up. And I'll see you guys next week. If anyone wants to stay on for some questions and answers, feel free to. Otherwise, see you later. All right, let's go ahead and open it up to questions. Anybody have anything? Hope you guys didn't log off when I told you to eat seaweed. It's so good, I promise. Oh, Sherry says, congrats, Auntie. Yeah, they're adorable. They're like this big. They got these little heads. They're so cute. I am beside myself. But I did catch a horrible cold because of it. You guys probably heard last week in my voice. Still getting better. It's a small group today, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them out there. Oh, Michelle says, so is that a hint that I take you out to sushi? Because I can do that. I love that idea. Yes, sushi. We have seaweed salad and sushi and nori on our sushi. Be so good for us. How do you spell the seaweed names? So I'll write them here in the chat, but they're also in your journal. So when you print up your journal, you'll have those. So wakame and nori and dulse is spelled this way. There are plenty of other types too that you should maybe try out. But these are kind of the basic staples. Dulse is one of those ones that you could just have in your kitchen, and anytime that you feel like you need to throw salt on anything, do that instead, because salt's not necessarily bad for you. Like, our body needs it. There's salt in the seaweed, but the seaweed also has all of these great nutrients and minerals. So when you're eating popcorn and watching a movie, why not throw some dulse on it and get a little bit of nutrition in there as well? Yeah, it's good stuff. Wakame is also the seaweed that's in miso soup, so we're going to talk about that a little bit later too in a later week when we talk about fermented foods. Michelle says, what did you say about turning nervous energy into positivity? I said a lot about that, a whole lot. So basically the idea is that nervous energy bottles up inside of you, and because you feel it, and you start to get anxious, or your body starts to tense up, and nervous energy just sticks inside of you. It like bottles up, it kind of like fizzles. I almost feel like it's like carbonated water, and eventually, like, if you get shaken up enough with the carbonation, then you just like explode, which is not good. We don't want to explode. But the idea here is that when you have negative energy build up inside of you, that you can take a second and calm that down. Like when I was in the hospital, I mean, Michelle, you saw me that day. I was a mess, right? So I like to think I hit it well, but I didn't. So had I just taken some time to like sit down and meditate and cool off, I just like I probably could have been a little bit better about not letting that nervous energy affect my body physically so much. And what it ended up doing was kind of escalating the cold that I had. My immune system wasn't really able to fight that off because my nervous energy was taking up my body energy as well. I mean, it was like I went into that mode of like fight or flight. Now, fight or flight is, it's interesting because the whole basis of fight or flight mode is like from our primitive minds, it's our primitive muscles memory. And it's kind of this idea that like if I was out on the street and I was being chased by somebody, for instance, my fight or flight mode should go off immediately. And I have to make a quick decision whether I'm going to punch that person in the face or whether I'm going to run away or whether I'm going to do both. And this happens a lot with people when they're in everyday life too. Like you maybe somebody makes you mad and you're like, I just want to leave. Like I need to just get out of here. Like that, you know, when you have that feeling of like, I have to get out. I had the same feeling when I was in California and I went up these beautiful cliffs, and I hate cliffs, mountains. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. And I got to the edge of the cliff and that fight or flight went off so strongly that I like turned around and hightailed it right back up the hill because I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to sit 15 feet that way and, you know, not on the edge of a cliff because my body was like, When your fight or flight response goes off, it's more important to you that you're able to run away or that you're able to fight than it is for you to fight off a cold. Like your body just kind of shuts that down. So instead of your immune system being like all these little worker bees in there, like cleaning stuff up and making sure that you're healthy and all's good, because we're fighting stuff off every day. I mean, everything we do, like there's bacteria everywhere. We've got like, you know, not to gross you out, but like we're constantly fighting in our bodies to be healthy. And usually we're winning that battle. But it's when the fight or flight response goes off, all your energy goes into your muscles and into your reflexes to be quicker and faster, and the adrenaline pumps up. And then all the workers that are working to make you healthy are kind of like dispersed to put their energy into other things too, to make sure that you can run away. Like if you need to run fast, you run fast. That's how people get the energy to like lift up a car. I'm not saying that all that energy comes from your immune system, but it's like all your resources go into that one thing. So anyway, the whole point is when you have this negative energy that's bubbling up inside of you, it's like you can't get out of that fight or flight. You end up getting into this position of like kind of always being on alert. And what we need to do is transfer that over from nervous energy into positive energy. So what you do is you say an affirmation. I mean, you can do an affirmation as simple as like just sit and go through the affirmation from last week. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. And tell yourself and convince yourself and calm down. And then eventually you'll feel that energy release. And it's not necessarily like like it goes away, but you start to notice that instead of you being like this all the time, you're kind of like, okay, I can calm down, I'm all right. Or you can breathe normal again, or like you don't feel like you have to pace around all the time. When you can turn that into positivity, then your immune system again can start to kick back on, it can start to work, and it helps with your health. Now this is important because we don't just get sick, like we get a cold or we get the flu or whatever, but people get cancer, people get all sorts of diseases. I mean, we get things that like we really don't want. I mean, like chronic pain, chronic sickness. And these are the things that you can start to fight off by using positivity, by letting your immune system work in its best way possible so that you don't end up with these like chronic problems. So, I mean, that's pretty big. And then once you turn that into positivity, then it's like you're connecting that positive thought, you're releasing all of that energy from, it's like transformed, it's no longer negative, now it's positive, and that ball of positive energy is able to go out into the world, and you're able to use it in a positive way. So like, if I'm freaked out, and it's all about me, and I'm there with my sister, and I'm like, I'm not helping her, really, although it kind of felt like maybe I was, but it's not helpful for her for me to be stressed out. what's helpful for her is for me to have positive energy, to keep positive, to keep her calm, and to keep everything in line as best as possible. And what I was able to do once I was able to kind of pull back a little bit was to be there for my sister and also for the rest of my family as they were coming in. I was able to hang out with my niece. There were a lot of things that I was able to do that were positive and were I was able to connect to other beings. And that what I'm talking about with this spiritual connection or making that circuit is that I'm actually able, in that case, I'm available to be able to connect to someone spiritually. So whether that's like having a great time with my niece and, you know, feeling love with her and having a really great time, or being able to spend time with my parents, even like just my positive energy being around my sister and being able to help her feel calm and like she's in a safe place and that I'm there if she needs anything, then that positivity is creating a spiritual connection between other people's spirits. And that's what can be so beautiful about it. And in that case, like in the case of me and my sister, it becomes like an experience of a one-time experience. It becomes this like closed case where like I was in the hospital and this is how the events unfolded. But in everyday life, when you find yourself in fight or flight mode, or when you find yourself with all this nervous energy and you need to turn it into positive energy, then you can also start making spiritual connections with people in your world. And I think you said it before when in the beginning of class, when you started turning your thoughts into positive energy already, that people were starting to come out of the woodwork to help you. And that's making that spiritual connection. You completed that circuit. So maybe what now you need to do is make a conscious effort to complete the circuit between one side of your goal and the other side of your goal, and what kind of things are happening within you and what kind of things are happening outside of you, and can you make that connection. And when I was talking about like the Kermit the Frog thing, it's like that point of contact is the same, like all of a sudden this puppet can talk to you, right? It's like it's that one connection, it's that piece where it all goes and connects together. Does that make sense, or did I just talk around in circles? Yay! Okay, good. There's just a summation of the entire lecture, probably in a better way. So there's that. Anything else come up? You can talk to me later about it when we're out for sushi. Eating seaweed. Does it sound good? All right. Anything else from anyone? Anything else from anyone else? That's what I meant to say. If not, we'll go ahead and log off, and I will see you guys next week. All right. Take care.